Hey everybody, so today I am here to do my weaning video. This is a long time coming, but it's taken me a super long time to wean, so that's kind of part of my excuse. But I have been completely weaned for about 2 weeks now, so I thought I would jump on here and tell you guys all about the second time of weaning. So if you are new to my channel or my videos, I exclusively pumped with my oldest daughter Sophie, who's now 3, for 10 months. Then I got pregnant with our youngest Remy, so I had to immediately stop, and I stopped that and obviously was pregnant, delivered Remy, and then I started exclusively pumping for her as well. And at 1 year and 9 months I decided that, well, it was before that, but around that time frame I decided enough was enough and I've weaned, and like I said, it's been a couple weeks since, so I made it 1 year and 9 months with pumping for Remy. And between the two, it was a world of difference, honestly. I don't know why I didn't expect for this to go differently than it did with Sophie. Kids between themselves are completely different. I should know that my breastfeeding journey was going to be super different too. So there was a lot of differences between both breastfeeding journeys, but I'm just here to talk to you today about the weaning. So I have a whole list of notes for you guys, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And I just wanted to mention first and foremost that I was an exclusive pumper. I had a massive oversupply. I also had slowly decreased this just by pumping less frequently, and when I started weaning I was at 70 ounces a day. So I want to say that again. I was an exclusive pumper. That means all I do was pump. I think saying the circumstances really does matter. I don't want people getting the wrong idea and thinking that this is totally normal. My oversupply is not normal. It's not something that's average. If you guys are interested in seeing a video that I've done before about my oversupply, I will link that in the cards, whatever side that's on, so you guys can watch that. But I'm just going to go ahead and move on with the story. So it had been something that I had been contemplating for a while. Basically, ever after a year, I had been thinking about it. It was just kind of in the back of my head, but I just kind of wrote it off. And it wasn't until I got thrush that I was like really wanting to be done. I got thrush at 1.5 years, basically. Some 1.5 years present of exclusively pumping, let me tell you. So the thrush was just a miserable experience, and I told myself, as I did before in the past, that if I wanted to wean, it would be a decision that I made when I was good, when things were okay. I wasn't going to make a decision when I was already in a crappy place and kind of had a reason to quit. So I got my thrush figured out, finished treatment for that, everything was good. And about a week had passed and I was still really thinking about it. So I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it. And at this point, it was the middle of November. So let me read some of my notes. Yeah. I started lecithin after I decided, just because I was very prone to clogs through my journey. It was something that I dealt with time and time again. I literally probably didn't go a week without experiencing at least one clog, so I was very used to them. So that's why I started my lecithin, and that was just like a regular dosage so that I could hopefully prevent them. And I was also at 3 pumps per day at this point. So I pumped when I got up in the morning, which was around 7 o'clock in the morning. I would pump in the afternoon, which is around 3, 4 o'clock. And then I would pump before I went to bed, which always just varied. So at that 3 pumps per day, I decided that I just slowly wanted to get down to 1. So I did that by pushing as much time between them as I possibly could. Now, this I kind of was a little worried about because I was expecting clogs. I definitely got clogs if I waited longer than I should have to pump. It was something my body always did through this breastfeeding journey with Remy. So I was really expecting them. However, it wasn't a problem. So I was pushing as much time between when I woke up and when I went to bed to get that middle of the day pump out, and then I knew I would move on to the next one. But the middle of the day pump was the one that I really focused on first, and like I said, I was just pushing as much time as I possibly could. So I think the first day I made it like a couple hours after, and then the next day it was, a few hours after, and it slowly progressed to where I was able to wean that one out. It took about 4 or 5 days to wean that middle of the day pump out completely. So at this point I was only pumping at 7 a.m. and before I went to bed. And then it took an additional like 4 or 5 days to not feel engorged. So I had pushed that middle of the day pump out, but by the time I was getting to my last pump of the day at night, I was really, really engorged. So it took a little bit for that to go away as well. Even after I wasn't engorged anymore, I stayed at that 2 pumps per day just so I could get further used to it. My body just had time to sit with that for a little bit, give it a little bit of a break, if you will. And at this point, I wanted to mention that I was only making 50 ounces a day, so I'd lost 20 ounces with dropping that middle of the day pump. So the next pump that I decided to focus on was my morning pump. And the reason I chose my morning pump opposed to my night one was because if I tried to drop my night pump and I was just pushing more time, you know, like what I had done with the middle of the day pump, that meant that I would have to get up in the middle of the night. So like I said, I was pumping around 10 p.m., 12 a.m., just depending on obviously when I wanted to go to sleep. You know, if I kept trying to push more and more time to that, I would have to be waking up in the middle of the night. I didn't want to do that. So what I started doing was pushing my morning pump further and further along. So that way, like I said, I was avoiding getting up in the middle of the night. So that took about a week and a half to drop because it was my largest pump. I was making 30 ounces at that pump altogether. It used to be a lot more than that, but I had been at 30 ounces for my morning pump for probably around like 4 or 5 months at that point. I also want to mention again, just so people aren't getting confused, but making 30 ounces for your morning pump is not a normal or average thing. It's not something you should strive for. I had a huge oversupply, and that's the reason why I dealt with that. And when I pushed this pump out, I did lose that 30 ounces, so I went from 50 to 20. But when it was all said and done, my supply also kind of wavered with the only pump session that I had left. So I was only making 16 ounces a day, and I only had one pump session, which was right before I went to bed. At this point, I was really surprised at how well this had all gone. I really didn't have any clogs at all. I wasn't having any problems. I just kind of took it as a sign that my body was really ready to wean, and I did get overconfident because I hadn't had a clog thus yet. Everything was moving pretty smoothly. It was moving pretty quickly for the large supply that I did have, and I just got overconfident. So this last pump session took the longest, but it's because I was too greedy. I wasn't paying attention to my body, and I did a lot of stuff that I should have known better to not do, but I did it anyways because I was in a rush to get done. I saw it was like this kind of light at the end of the tunnel, and I was almost done. I had gone from a massive supply all the way down to 16 ounces, and I just felt like this was very towards the end for me. So I thought, I'll have no problem dropping this pump. I can just do it. It's gonna be fine. And it wasn't fine, and I kept trying to force it to be fine, and it just kept biting me in the butt even more. So I'm gonna walk you through this. This is gonna be the longest part of the story, and it's probably gonna be a little bit confusing, but that's exactly what my experience was with it. It felt like forever, and it was the most confusing thing. And it just goes to show you that no matter how much experience you have as an exclusive pumper, you're gonna be thrown into situations where even if you should know better, you're not going to know better. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn new stuff. And it definitely did teach me a lot. So I'm going to read the notes about this last part. With this last pump of the day, like I said, I was only making 16 ounces, which is 8 ounces per boob. So what I started doing, because I did not want to get up in the middle of the night, like I said, I started only emptying halfway. So I was only pumping 4 ounces from each boob, making 8 ounces altogether, which my body promptly showed me that it hated. It hated, because I was getting these nasty clogs. Like, I mean, they were visible to the outside. Mark could see them. They were excruciating for me. They were just all around the nastiest clogs I think I've ever had my entire journey. Instead of seeing that as a way of my body saying, please stop and slow down, we hate this, I continued to make the situation worse. I ended up trying to only pump for relief, so I was literally going, I think, like 48 hours. And this went on for like a week's time, and I was just trying to work through the pain and just get to the end. And I was like, eventually my body is just gonna quit making milk, and it was just no. What it was doing was making clogs to show me that I needed to slow down. I needed to do this a lot slower. I needed to take a gentler approach, and I was like at my wit's end. For whatever reason, I couldn't see why my body wasn't adjusting, why it wasn't weaning. It just kept trying to do the same old, same old. But the vicious cycle that I was in was I was trying to decrease my supply. I was trying to wean. I was trying to get rid of this last pump session, but I would get a nasty clog. And to get that nasty clog out, I had to pump. I could not hand express them. So I was pumping probably even more frequently than what I was before the last pump of the day. And I don't know, maybe it was just because of all the emotions and everything else we had going on in our life at that time, but I literally couldn't see what was going on. So I reached out to my friend Kyria, who is an absolute angel and has helped me so many times throughout my pumping journey. Kyria is also a long time exclusive pumper. She went over 2 years, which is just phenomenal. And Kyria was just amazing. Together we worked out this plan for me to try and to see if it didn't make things better, because I was literally at my wit's end. I was this close to figuring out something to take, having my doctor help me. Like, I didn't even know. I was just really at my wit's end about it. I was also really scared that I was gonna do something wrong and end up with like mastitis or something like right at the end, you know? So that was another reason why I wasn't letting my clogs go. So our plan was for me to pump one last time, get all my clogs out, and then I would hand express once every 24 hours. And I did this at night pretty much like I did my pump session. However, with this, I was hand expressing and I did whatever felt right. I don't really know how to word that for you guys. I wasn't hand expressing a certain amount. I basically just did it on feel. Like, if it felt right to me to be this empty, I really just tried to like tune in with my body, and I was hand expressing a good bit, and I think I was getting myself decently close to empty, and I just slowly started doing less and less, and that way my body did catch on. So I think slowing down, hand expressing, and doing it so much slower was really the key to it all. I probably didn't need to go as long as I did with the hand expressing, but like I said, I was really nervous to get something at the end or even like a clog again, because the whole point of us trying to do this, Kyria helped me come up with the plan, but I assure you she was not here hand expressing me. I was doing that on my own. But, you know, the plan that we had made, it was so that I pumped one last time and I wasn't using the pump. I wasn't, you know, trying to stimulate my body anymore. I was really just trying to hand express and stick to that. So I was terrified of getting a clog, getting mastitis, getting something nasty right at the end. So even right at the end, I was getting drops, and my left side actually hung on a lot longer than my right side did, which surprised me because my mastitis was in my left side. And ever since my mastitis, it was like the slacker of the two. Before that, I didn't have a slacker, but after the mastitis, it definitely was. So I figured it'd be the first to go. However, it was not. This one quickly like got the message and was like, okay, I'm done making milk, peace, bye, I'm out. And I was like almost kind of forcing drops out of it, but like I said, I think I was just paranoid about all the things I had gone through in this breastfeeding journey. But this one was like staying strong. I could still get streams out, and as long as I could get streams out, I would still do a few streams. Like, I would express a few streams and then I would try to do drops, and then I would be done. And I did that, and as of 2 weeks ago was the last time I hand expressed, and I've been doing great ever since. I haven't had any issues. I will say I'm not completely dried up. If I do go to like express something, milk does well up, it's there, but it's by no means causing me any troubles. It's gonna take a while to go away, obviously, and I am done breastfeeding. I'm done hand expressing. I'm not pumping anything. I actually put everything up in the loft, so I don't even have anything down here anymore for pumping, for hand expressing, or anything. It's just been amazing. It's been amazing to see what my life is like not being tied to the pump all the time. For me personally, I never really reflect on that kind of stuff when I'm in the moment. I try not to. I try to look at pumping as a necessity of something I have to do to feed my child. So I try not to focus on the negatives of it, because there are a lot, trust me. But looking back, it is really amazing to me that I stuck it out that long, that I stuck through so many things. But I am so glad that I'm weaned now, because I can sleep on my stomach, I can lay on my stomach, I don't have to stop things. Just the biggest thing for me is just being able to go to bed. That was something that I said to Mark like a million times, was I just want to go to bed. Do you know how amazing it would be to just go to bed? I'm tired. Let me go into that room and go to sleep. But with pumping, you can't do that. With exclusively pumping, you have to sit down and you have to empty before you go to sleep. That's just the way the rules are. So for me, it's just been like the little things, and slowly decreasing my supply I think was a huge help. I do plan on doing a more in-depth oversupply video, so if you have any questions regarding that, leave them down below. I'll be sure to answer them or address them in that video. But I feel like that really was the key for weaning, was doing it slowly. So I did pump every 3 hours for the longest time. Then I went every 4 hours. Then I went every 5 hours. And then I just started doing pumps per day. So I really wasn't worried about frequency, but how many times I was pumping in a day. And from there, I knew that at a year or a little after, I wanted to gradually push myself to be at 3 pumps per day, because I knew eventually I would want to wean, and I felt like at 3 pumps per day it'd be easy to start the weaning process, and it was. So I think that helped a lot. You know, I wasn't going from pumping every 3 hours straight into weaning, which helps a ton. It allows your body to adjust to things easier. It's already done a lot of the work, so you're just trying to get it home. But if there's anything that I learned, it's to pay attention to your body and to really just try to take things slow. You know, even if you don't have an oversupply, even if you're not prone to clogs, anything like that, I still think that everybody could benefit from going slowly. That way you don't get a clog. That way it's not a miserable experience, you know? And I think, like I said, I was just getting super impatient because I was so close to the end, and it had been going so well before that I was frustrated because it felt like I had made progress, but I was taking steps backwards. So it took a while for me to learn and to see, and thankfully I had Kiri by my side, and I think when I messaged her, she was just like, you need to go slower, duh. And it was something that just hadn't even crossed my mind for some reason. I don't know. I think I was just too greedy. I just really wanted to be done. So all in all, it was a definitely different experience than it was with Sophie. And I think I vastly underestimated how much my pregnancy with Remy helped the weaning process. I definitely do think that it had a major role in me drying up with Sophie and weaning, and it made that so much easier. Because with Sophie, even though I didn't have a big of an oversupply as I did with Remy, I weaned in like under a month's time. I am a high risk patient when I'm pregnant, just right off the bat, being pregnant. So that's why I had to wean right away. So it was important to wean as fast as possible. I was a little annoyed with myself that I had taken almost a month to wean with Sophie, but seeing how long it took with Remy, I do see that it actually did happen really quickly for me, and there's people who even go about it slower. So I do think the weaning process is something that you have to think about. It can definitely benefit you, even if you're like 6 months postpartum right now and you want to go for a while. I would definitely think about where you want to be in the future, and think about, you know, what pumps per day you would like to be at a year, or a year and 3 months, year and 6 months, and that way you're able to slowly adjust your body and not just send it straight into the shock of weaning, because I think that's what I did to mine, even though I really wasn't pumping that much. But yeah, that pumping experience, of course, it had to be eventful. My entire breastfeeding journey with Remy has been eventful, so it only makes sense. But I won't be breastfeeding again until we deliver our next baby. We're currently trying to conceive, so hopefully it's not too long, and I look forward to it. I know that there's only going to be so many years that I get to breastfeed. There's only going to be so many babies that I get to breastfeed, and it's a very short-lived moment in your children's life. So I try to take it in for what it's worth, and I'm proud of myself and the work that I've done. And I hope this video was helpful for those of you who are weaning or considering weaning from exclusively pumping. Trust me, you will get there. It might seem like it's taking forever, but you'll definitely get there. There's another side. There's a normal life past exclusively pumping. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.